was in the gym one day and I was doing a new dismount on parallel bars. So I was doing a double front somersault with a half turn. And I did one, it was not too bad. I decided to go back to doing just a double front without the half turn. And I did it so well and it was so high that I opened out. And when you land forwards in gymnastics, so if you do a forwards, it's a blind landing. You can't see the floor. You don't spot the floor. So you have to feel where it is. And I didn't think I was quite as high as I was. And I opened out and I landed on a straight leg. And I felt my leg bend backwards, essentially bow backwards. And it kind of went in slow motion. I could feel my knee bend like that. And it kind of just bounced back. And I jumped straight onto my back and grabbed my knee like this. And I thought, that's it, I've snapped my ACL. And that was my worst nightmare in gymnastics, was my ACL or my Achilles. I hated it. I could never, it was the one thing that would make me squeamish. I could never watch it. And when my friends had those injuries, it was awful. So I wanted to avoid those two injuries at all costs. And I was lying on my back and I was going, no. And I was crying and I was thinking I've done my knee. And somebody came over, they checked my ligaments and it seemed okay. And I got an MRI scan straight away. Again, that became a common theme. You know, I would ring up the BG physios, particularly in that Tokyo cycle. I'd ring them up and say, hey, Johnny, I've got an injury. Can you get me an MRI scan? And I'd get sent out to get a scan the next day. And it came back and I'd tore my hamstring. And the one positive that came out of that was that when I had been in rehab for my ankle injury, I got really close with the medical team. And I was really inquisitive. And I would ask them a lot of questions. So I'd ask the strength and conditioning coach, you know. I can remember one day we sat there and there was a young gymnast called Johnny. Incredible gymnast. He was incredible on floor and vault. And we used to have to do, it was basically, we'd have to do like marker training at the beginning of the year where we'd have to do certain exercise and it was to measure where we were physically before we started the year. And there was one exercise where you had to do a leg press, and you had to do a leg press with, I think it was 3/4 of your body weight, and you had to go to maximum. So you had to do as many reps as possible. And I can remember it was early 2016, I think, and Johnny had been doing this exercise and he was like the best young talent in the world on floor and vault. And he could only do a handful of reps. And maxing out, I think, was 35 reps. And I can remember hearing people joke saying, well, it doesn't matter, Johnny's the best on floor and vault. He doesn't need to do leg press. And I had a conversation with the strength and conditioning coach and I asked him, you know, why are we doing this? Why is this important? And he said, well, Sam, like, what you need to know is that it's really important that your hamstring is equally as strong as your quad. That's what prevents knee injuries. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. No one's ever told me that before, because in gymnastics, we never do hamstring training ever. A lot of the physios, we didn't have a physio set up back in the day, so the coaches were never educated on how the body works and how you need to essentially train your body to prevent injury. So that was fascinating. I'd learned that and I'd taken that on board. So I incorporated hamstring training into my training, and that's what saved me. My hamstring basically held on for dear life when I bent my knee backwards, and that's what saved me from snapping my ACL.